Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Left right field towards the corner.
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio. SVP and Russillo, the podcast.
2 weeks here with Kanell, and we finish it on a Friday, EDM Friday. That's right. What to make of the Scott Brooks situation in Oklahoma City? Dirk, Steph Curry, Jason Kidd, also NBA playoff predictions, reaction to Paul Pierce's comments and the reaction to those, and we close it out. Have a great weekend.
SVP and Russillo.
Okay, we are off and running.
Oh, I wish everybody could see Outsider's head bob in there, looking like Skrillex at the board.
That was scary in the beginning. What was that?
The house of God.
Okay, that makes sense. I work with that.
Put me in a good mood. I'm ready to go.
EDM Friday, Danny Kanell's final day of these last 2 weeks. Van Pelt will be back on Monday. I want to thank you for all your help. We'll really talk about how great you are at the end of the show.
Awesome.
Okay.
A couple segments on that.
No problem. No problem. We can do that. We have a packed NBA guest list today. Dirk Nowitzki's going to join us in 15 minutes. He's awesome. We already taped it. Just trust me on this one. JJ Redick's going to join us this hour. We'll get to Jason Kidd, the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. Next hour, Kyle Lowry and Steph Curry. So we have a lot of NBAs. We get ready for the playoffs. But the other part of this time of year becomes the coaching rumor mill. And none other than with the Thunder and all of their exit interviews. Like, there's really no name that I think is more, well, maybe Thibodeau with the Bulls. But Scott Brooks has been with the Thunder for 7 years. They're outside of the playoffs this year. If they made a change, your reaction would be what?
I would be surprised. And I think we're on different pages on this because it does feel like he's got a free pass. And I think that's where you have a problem with that. Just because there have been injuries, that doesn't give him the free pass. But I do feel like when you're missing the second best player in the NBA for most of the season, and Kevin Durant, you also were without Russell Westbrook for a considerable amount of time, and Serge Ibaka as well. That means something. And this team, and I don't think it's Scott Brooks' fault. Well, the thing with Thibodeau is a lot of the injuries they're trying to pin on their style of play and that he doesn't rest enough. You don't hear this with this team. And most importantly for me, when I look at a coach evaluation, do the players respond to his style of coaching and to his motivational tactics? And this team stayed in there. He kept them together, was able to rally the team around Russell Westbrook and kind of, find a way to still have a pretty decent season. I mean, they're one shot away from making the playoffs, and they probably get bounced anyway. But I would say you've got one more year left in the contract. Give them the one more year, and then make the evaluation.
I totally get that. I think that's probably the popular opinion. But to just say, well, they had Durant for 27 games, they missed him. I'm not about teams going, we made the playoffs, everybody's awesome, we'll keep everyone. We didn't make the playoffs, everyone has to be fired. Because there are unlucky years, and this was an unlucky year for them injury-wise. And this is a trend now for the Thunder where they didn't have Ibaka for some games. It could have been even worse last year in the playoffs. And they didn't have Westbrook going back 2 years ago. Kevin Durant, during the exit interviews, actually addressed his team and some of the stuff you're talking about.
Definitely been a tough year as far as, injuries and, a lot of stuff has happened for us this year, and everybody kept their heads up. Nobody ever quit. Nobody ever complained about anything. And so I'm so proud of everybody. Never been more proud as a player of the Thunder than I am today, because we fought. We could have easily packed it in, but nobody did. To see the group of guys so resilient that make it to the playoffs, it hurts.
I get it. It's hard to argue with any of this stuff. But if Brooks were to lose his job, and he's only owed one more year, so financially it's not tough to walk away from this, and they want to make a change, I got no problem with it. And I'm not going to say that that's ridiculous. They didn't have Durant this year, because I think this is a continuation of a team that...
So do you think they've underachieved under his tenure?
It's hard for me to say that he has, because that doesn't seem like it's fair. But I also think it'd be completely fair if they go, Scott, you've been here 7 years. We've run into some problems that aren't necessarily on you in the playoffs, but we need another voice. Because I think during the regular season when they're healthy, they can win 55 games at least. And when I watch him during the playoffs, I don't know that he does very much to help them just help your stars get going offensively when you become too predictable.
And you think they're too simple offensively.
And I also think it was part of the roster that we saw in the playoffs last year. You're playing Kendrick Perkins. I'll never understand the Perkins minutes for the last few years. Rant over. I can't keep doing it. Thabo Sefolosha, I go back and look at it, and you're watching the playoffs from home, and I'm not some basketball mastermind. I'm not. I just watch a lot of games. You go, How do you have 2 zeros on offense? And guess what? Cephalosha eventually going from 30 minutes a game in some of those playoff games last year to basically being benched against San Antonio. I look at Mitch McGary this year and I go, I know he was hurt at the beginning of the year. He's a younger player, but the energy and minutes and just the activity that he has is so much better. And yet you're still giving those minutes to somebody like Perk until they eventually moved him in a trade. So if you want to make a change, go make a change. And don't worry about the way it's perceived, because I think some of the best examples we've had in recent history here in the NBA, you have Golden State that was worried. We really fire Mark Jackson? We're going to have Bogut? We go to 7 with the Clippers? We're not getting
right.
Yeah, and guess what? Oh, the Warriors, how are they going to respond? Man, they love Mark Jackson. They're over it immediately. They win 67 games. The Memphis Grizzlies, same thing with the Bulls and Vinny Del Negro. I think it's okay for teams to go, let's just move forward instead of worrying about how it's kind of framed. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, totally. It makes sense. I mean, there's a large there's a feeling out there among professional coaches in general. Marty Schottenheimer used to have a philosophy that 10 years was your max out. Like if you're in one place for 10 years, like it's time to move on.
That's an awesome theory, but that is so I get what he's saying, but
right.
you're not making it 10 years.
No,
would you go to the owners in the NBA and be like, hey guys, in 10 years, if you want to make a move for me in 2025, I'm okay with it.
But the reference is that you get stale. I know Stanford Steve felt like they were just stale. There's something about Brooks that's stale.
Oklahoma City, right?
Right. What would you do? So what is your better option? Is it Billy Donovan?
I'm not saying that I know for a fact that this guy is going to be better.
Right.
I'm just saying 7 years in, if he loses his job, it's not because they didn't make the playoffs this year. So don't frame it that way.
So, but would that's what I would make sure, that you have something better, that you have a better option, that you feel that comfortable. I think Steve Kerr felt like a pretty good option. Now, not much experience, but he's been around the game.
But they didn't know they were going to have him. Most people thought he was going to the Knicks, and they were so for moving away from Mark Jackson, they went ahead and do it without knowing that Kerr was a guarantee.
Still, Kevin Ollie or Billy Donovan?
For me, I'd go Kevin Ollie.
Even though the name that's coming up the most is Billy Donovan.
Right. Bradley Beal, who played for Donovan 1 year at Florida.
What about
today,
the uniqueness of handling a guy like Russell Westbrook?
Look, Russ is going to be Russ no matter what. It doesn't matter who's coaching him.
But he's got a pretty good relationship with Brooks.
You played. Did you ever worry about a coach more than you worried about yourself?
No, but I think the NBA is unique because of the relationships. We've seen some really bad blow-ups between head coaches and players where it just did not work. I think the NBA players have way more power than NFL players, aside from a handful of quarterbacks who might have more influence.
I don't know. Maybe Russ is ready for somebody in his career, despite the numbers, where he goes, you know what we don't need is 1-on-4 fadeaways.
Well, that was by default. They didn't have many options towards the end of the season.
Danny Kanell, SVP Russillo on ESPN Radio. Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests in the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. So if I look at Monty Williams of the Pelicans was told, injuries, no injuries. Get to the playoffs to keep your job. They make it. Now, I don't know that he's killing. I think Dell Demps has done a better job in the front office than Monty Williams has done as a coach. But if I own the team, I would. If I didn't like the coach, I wouldn't go, well, we made it. We made the AC and got blasted, but I have to keep you even though I don't like you. I would
never, if I was management, back myself into that corner where you had either an ultimatum, hey, you better make the playoffs or you're gone, or if you make the playoffs, you're secure. Because you don't know. What if Oklahoma City gets to the playoffs next year and they get bounced, but they've said this deal, hey, we're gonna if you make the playoffs next year, it's fine. I don't like management backing themselves in a corner like that. You should have the result. You sign the checks. You should be able to make the decision you want, regardless of the outcome on the court.
We're going to do a ton of NBA today, as you mentioned. This hour, J.J. Redick. Also, Chris Bryant of the Cubs called up. Everybody's talking about that. And Kanell and I went out last night. So we'll recap that. That should take about 20, 25 seconds.
Crazy.
Total. We do have EDM Friday. Outsider, are you fired up? Are you good?
I'm ready. I'm excited.
Have we ever gone out with music to break? I think that's what we should do today.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I don't want to mess up your playlist.
There we go. Yeah, it's good to throw a wrench into plans.
I know. This could have been his 10:15 open. The Dirk interview about fashion and also whether or not he thought he was going to be a Celtic on draft night with Danny Kanell and Outsider Mike. It's the Outsider Mike Show on ESPN Radio.
SVP and Russillo.
Dirk, this is a long career and tons of success, and you roll into the 7-2 matchup with the Rockets. I don't want this to sound bad, but does it feel like this is one of the last shots at this for you and your team?
Yeah, I mean, I signed on this summer for 3 more years, so hoping this in these 3 years. We're still going to compete. We're going to go in the playoffs, hopefully make deep runs. So, this is our first chance, and we feel like we got a good team. It's been a little bit of an up or down season. We've been a little bit too inconsistent at times. But I still feel like if we play our best basketball right now, I still feel like we got a lot of weapons. We're a deep team, and so we'll see. I mean, the Rockets are a tough matchup, but we're going to give it all we got.
How have things changed for you on the court with the moving pieces, bringing over Chandler, a trade at center, the point guard? Like, how different has it been, say, month to month for you as a player?
Well, I felt really good at the beginning of the season. I had a great November, and then I fell off a little bit. I had some body problems, and I wasn't great there for a while. But fought my way back into it with hard work and a lot of extra work, and so I'm ready to go to the playoffs. And team-wise, it's been a little up and down, like I mentioned. I think we started off hot. We had a pretty light schedule there in November, and things got a little tougher. We did the Rondo trade, and I think it's tough sometimes to trade for a point guard or a key piece right in the middle of the season, and it took us a while to kind of get going on both ends of the floor. But I think we finished the season okay, and we're ready to go into the playoffs strong.
The stats say that Rondo doesn't make your offense better, but where does he make your offense better? How does he make your offense better?
Well, I think we're great when we speed the pace up. Sometimes when we take the ball out too much, we don't get any stops, then we have to walk the ball up, and then we get in trouble some. Then the spacing is not quite there, and we got to take tough shots, and we turn into a tough jump shooting team, which is not what we really want. So we'd love to get the ball out, get the ball in Rondo's hands, let him do his thing in transition, run the show, get to the basket, get to the paint, create some stuff for himself and his teammates. So we want to make sure we're pushing the pace. We can always pull it back and then run a set play. And the funny thing is that Houston plays the same way. They have their wings filling in as soon as they get it. On every miss, Harden is pushing the ball up. So I think this series is going to be a lot of old school Western Conference showdown up and down basketball.
There was just an article out in ESPN the magazine about Rondo and what an eccentric teammate he is, crazy competitive. Have you seen that side of him?
Yeah, but he's been great. He's definitely on the court. He's a competitor. He will do everything to win. But honestly, off the court, he's more laid back than I thought. He does get fired up sometimes when he sees something on the court he doesn't like or something doesn't go his way. But off the court, he's been great with everybody. We've been having fun in the bus or in locker rooms, lifting weights or whatever. So I've been surprised with his personality. He's actually pretty funny.
Give us a story. What does he do that makes you laugh?
I don't know. He just always has something to say, as I do the same. People not really know that I'm a jokester a lot of the time because I'm always serious on the court and I yell and scream and stuff. But off the court, I love to have fun. I tell this situational comics all the time, and he's the same. So we're having fun with each other, but there's not really one thing that he does. Just his little antics off the floor are pretty funny.
Dirk Nowitzki joining us here, the Dallas Mavericks getting ready for the playoffs. Now, Dirk, if you give yourself some time to reflect on your career and you think back, you had to kind of prove yourself to people. You're a German, you're tall, you're a perimeter guy, you know what I mean? And I'm sure it was tough on you. And I always remember talking about this, you were soft until you won a ring, and then you were no longer soft. Do people challenge you now with the respect they have? Do they challenge you the same way they challenge you as a younger player in the league?
Well, I think my first couple of years were really tough to establish me and myself, but I was a little fortunate to have an old school coach like Nelly who really let me play my game. I think if I would have come in another situation, maybe, they would have tried to bulk me up 20, 30 pounds and then play more back to the basket and maybe would have never seen this career. So I was fortunate, that Nelly liked coaching mismatches and he had me shooting threes all the time. So I was fortunate. He definitely helped me succeed in this league. And I never really worried about respect or this and that. I just try to win. That's all I worried about. I went home every summer to work hard, work on my game, add more stuff, at the beginning, I was basically just a spot-up shooter. Then I added a little more shooting off the dribble. Then when they started switching, I had to add a little more post-up or that high-post ISO against smaller guys that we run here for over 10 years. So I just always try to work on my game and get better and be more complete player. That's really all I worried about.
The Celtics were shocked that they didn't get you that night. Did you know that?
Yeah, I remember. I actually worked out with Coach Pitino at the time, and I think that they were going to take me at 10. And I guess the Mavericks got wind of that or something, so that's why they traded down from 6 to 9, and that's the lowest they could have gone before I think the Celtics would have taken me. But since Paul Pierce was still available, I think it worked out great for both franchises. I mean, Paul had an incredible career. He brought a championship there to Boston, so I think both sides were pretty happy afterwards.
Can you get Chandler Parsons some clothes that fit?
I actually tell him sometimes that he dresses like Justin Bieber, and he tells me that I dress like an old man. I'm a shirt and slack kind of guy. Sometimes a little suit, maybe open collar, neck, or whatever. So if I would dress like him, like I'm a grown man now. I'm almost 37. I can't be wearing clothes that are not even go past my ankles. So it's we're having some issues there, but other than that, we actually get along really good.
Derek, see, I've been to Stuttgart, and I believe that you could find some jeans there that would work. Will you do that for us? One playoff game, rolling through the tunnel in a full Chandler Parsons outfit, it would blow up.
Yeah, it would, but I think it'll be too much of a distraction. And so if I do that, I might do it next year during preseason. But in the playoffs, I don't want to distract the team.
Right, and you want to tell Carlisle you pulled a hamstring just trying to get jeans on before the playoffs.
Exactly. Or cut him off before the game with a tape cutter. That's not a good look.
Final thought here, man, and you look at this West, and you guys sitting there 50 wins, and you're the 7th seed. Who do you think throughout the year when you've just gone up against it, like who do you think is the scariest team in the West?
Well, it's got to be Golden State. They had an incredible year. They have, two unbelievable weapons from the outside with Clay and Steph. But what's underappreciated, I think, is their length on the perimeter, their defense. I think there's a reason why they won 60-something games, is because they were number one in offense. But for most of the year, I still think they were at the end. They're number one in defense also. They got a lineup where they could switch everything with the guys, with Iguodala coming off the bench and Green and Clay is long for two. I mean, they're just really, really good, and they're really long, and they can make shots, and they can play a lot of styles. So, if anything, they're probably the team to beat. But anything is possible in the playoffs.
Dirk, thanks so much, man. You're always fun to visit with. Good luck in the playoffs.
Okay, thanks, guys. Take care.
SVP and Russillo.
No, but for real. How come you don't dance coming back from break?
Leg day. That's why.
Now
I'm
worn out.
Everyone should be dancing by now.
What do you got going on this weekend, outsider?
I don't know. It's supposed to be nice day or nice weather.
That mean a hike?
In the yard.
Hike with the girl? Hike with the lady?
That'd be nice, maybe.
So Hoogland Tower hike?
Yeah.
I don't know if you could hike.
So he definitely can't make it. He would not make it.
Told myself I wasn't going to be doing this stuff anymore.
Have you worked on your conditioning at all since the one-on-one game? Get on a treadmill for?
No, I'm still trying to recover.
Still sore from that game?
Still a little sore, yeah.
Pull anything?
15 minutes a day. Just start something.
That's what a lot of people are saying. Why don't you just try to work out a little bit and then rematch them? I don't think anyone wants to see a rematch.
No. So. What about a dance-off?
I could maybe muster up some energy for that.
Oh, that piqued his interest right there.
Yeah, because if you beat him in the dance-off, as far as I'm concerned, the scorecard's 1-1.
I might even just go all the way to 2-1.
Maybe.
He might win right
Danny Kanell today, SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio. It is time. Are you ready for playoff predictions?
Got my notes lined up.
Are you going to go all BPI, or just are you ready to go?
It's a combination. I have a metric system that I like to use. Some BPI, some film study.
Okay.
Personality-driven as well.
All right, so we're picking all the first-round matchups.
Van Pelt's going to be so mad. When are you going to get his picks? Monday? Like, does he get a head start? Does he get to see the first couple games?
I don't know, man. I mean, he's not here.
His loss, right?
Yeah.
All right. You going first?
Yeah, I'm going first.
All right, take it.
All right, I was offering it to you. So I'll go Atlanta. No shock there over Brooklyn. I'm going to go Cleveland. We also, on Grantland last night, they were doing the thing where they were talking about team most likely to be swept. Is it Boston?
Yeah, it's gotta be.
I think the Pelicans. All right, so Chicago, Milwaukee. I know everybody's excited about that Milwaukee defense, but I just don't see how they're going to score enough against the Bulls. And give me the Wizards over Toronto without the it factor. So that's my one upset in the East.
So you're taking the Wizards over the Raptors?
Yeah, I don't love it, but
So am I.
no kidding.
Yeah.
So, Kyle, so basically, good interview today. You like the team. Bad interview.
Exactly.
And then you're picking.
Selling them out. I had, just so you know, circled on my list was the Wizards before the interview, so that did not turn me off. But regular season matchup 3-0 to the Raptors' favor. But paid attention, 2 of those were OT wins, down to the wire.
Well done. They haven't played since February. I actually look at both of those teams and like them less now than we did at the beginning of the year, and I imagine almost everyone would agree with me on that one.
Yeah, I was kind of with you on the Bucks. They were really enticing, especially talking to Wilbon yesterday. You look at some of the injury issues that the Bulls have, but I think it'll catch up with them in the next round. I don't think it catches up with them this round. So
I don't think Milwaukee can score in a playoff series against a guy like Tibbs and what he's going to do. Like they're going to struggle to score a little bit there. But Milwaukee's defense has been great because they have long guys. They can switch everything, and these defenders that can guard multiple positions. They're so unbelievably valuable. Let me reset this. Apparently, I'm not going to be able to talk this segment. I'm not sure. Danny Kanell, SVP Russillo on ESPN Radio. So go with the West.
With the West, I've got the Warriors, round 1 versus Pelicans. The Spurs-Clippers had me hesitant for a while, but I'm going to stick with the Spurs. I'm on that train. I'm going with the finish, even though they lost the last game against the Pelicans to get the 2 spot. I'm going to stick with them.
Stick with them. You're so brave.
Right.
No one's picking San Antonio.
Memphis over Portland. I'm going to stick with that one. I think Portland's got too many issues. No Wesley Matthews. I think that's going to come back to haunt them. And I'm going to go with the upset special. Mavericks over the Rockets. I think they get things turned around. I think they figure it out with Rondo, even though they struggled in the second half. Dirk has me convinced. I got some inside intel from him.
Golden State with you, clearly. I'll disagree with Dallas and Houston. I'm going to go Houston. I'm with you on Memphis. Even though I don't love Memphis right now as much as I think we all did a month or so ago, Portland's injury situation has been...
Is there a more workman-like team?
Workman-like? Like, what do you mean?
In Memphis?
What, because they grind it out?
Yeah.
They're on the grind?
Right? I mean, look at Marc Gasol. The guy's a workman.
Actually,
even Zach Randolph looks like kind of like a workman, like just a guy that's going to grind it out.
Yeah, but doesn't that kind of take away from what your talents actually are?
No, I think it's a compliment.
I see Gasol as an incredibly skilled big before I think anything else. Okay, so that leaves one left for me, and I haven't said it yet, but we took the music down. That's all right, Mike. I know you're worried about the next playlist. We're fine. The Clippers and the Spurs.
Yep.
Clippers and the Spurs.
You've been hinting a lot at this one.
I'm not doing it.
You're not.
Take the Spurs.
There you go. Smart man. Are you just hoping to give yourself the reverse jinx?
No. I'll root to be right, so I don't know if that means I'll feel good if Chris Paul wins the first round. I'm worried about the options San Antonio has defensively against Chris Paul because I just don't like that the Clippers don't have a really good perimeter guy that can create. And Redick, as good as he is, and I like him on the team. I'd want him on my team if I had an NBA team, but
I want to be right,
it's off everything else.
I want to be right, too, but if Popovich deploys the hack of Jordan, I might start rooting against him. I don't want it to work. I don't want it to work. Because if it does, we're going to see it, and the games are going to take forever. It's going to slow down everything. It's no fun to watch.
He took 28 free throws in that game.
I know.
Actually, the Clippers won 119-115.
And I don't think you should make a rule change to try to prevent it from happening. I think you have to beat them to make them stop doing it. So if he does it, I'm going to hope they get beat, even though I'm picking the Spurs.
I wanted to. Did you think I was going to do it, Steve?
I did. I really did.
I thought I was, too. I went back and looked at some more things. Paul's numbers against the Spurs in the regular season are really good, but
Do you look up the BPI?
He's never the problem, Ryan.
all right.
He's not.
You're with me then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've convinced me.
Where do you have him? Third best?
Chris Paul, point
Yeah.
guard?
Yeah.
I believe for the playoffs right now, I'd rather have Chris Paul than Russell Westbrook for this year, but I would take Westbrook if I was building a team because he's younger. And Paul eventually, he's still going to be good, but the wear and tear have been doing this now for a little while.
I got no issue with that, taking Chris Paul over Russell Westbrook. No issue at all.
Over
About Steph, he gave us a great interview.
Come on now. That's my guy. Can't do it. Do you think that Van Pelt and I ever fight over, like, who's guy's the guy's guy? Does that make any sense?
No, but there's definitely going to be coming a fight next week because earlier in the year, Van Pelt switched his mind and said Kyle Korver's the best shooter on earth. And you're not going to let him forget that.
No,
And
not a
it's
chance.
going to come up again.
Because that was a
Very early, I think, in the week.
that was a Van Pelt, let's go over the shooting stuff, and he looked up Korver's stats and then just went, well, Korver's numbers are better, so I have to go with Korver, which completely dismisses the style of game that they play. So, yeah, Van Pelt's going to hear about that one for a long time. Because I remember going back to when we first interviewed Steph, and I'm going, he's the best shooter, he's the best shooter, he's the best shooter. So we did the interview, and I'll admit, I got annoyed because Van Pelt brings him in and goes, I think you're the best shooter in the league. And I'm like, what?
And you couldn't really say something
Right.
while he's on the interview, right?
No, Steph, I said it, though, a month ago. Scott's using it in the interview. So the Steph ownership has been contentious.
Should have asked Steph Curry about that.
Yeah. Steph, do you know how much I like you? Is it
Yeah,
weird?
they'll argue, like, I watched more of the Warriors last night. What quarter did you go to bed? I went to bed in the third.
I love when Steve gets in between parents fighting.
SVP and Russillo.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
I'm getting ready to say something just remarkably stupid.
SVP and Russillo.
Steph, when I look at your career and you go back to Davidson, and I know you've been asked these questions before, and the growth and the improvement, and you're going, wow, like, where do you put this guy now? Are you even better than you thought you would be as an NBA player?
Yeah, it's hard to kind of envision kind of where you will end up. It's just obviously you're wrapped up in the process year to year. But to kind of take a step back and see how, different players in 6 years and this situation's going on, it is pretty surreal feeling. Just want to, keep it going.
When you look at the style that you've had to play, you were off guard, and then Jared Jack would play, and then you play off him, and sometimes you would have the ball. Then last year it was all you, and now you're a point guard. How do you look at how you've changed, kind of where you've played on the court throughout your NBA career?
It's very similar to just how I grew up in high school and college. I was a pass first point guard when I was in high school, pretty much all the way through, those years, and then got to Davidson and was strictly a two guard that played some kind of backup point guard for about 5 minutes a game, but I was more known as just coming off catch and shoot, running off the ball pretty much the majority of the game. And then, fast forward my junior year in college, it was point guard that had to kind of do both, initiate the offense and score a lot of points. And then every year my NBA career is kind of taking a different shape, and I've tried to be as versatile as possible, keep getting better, whether it's running pick and rolls or, dominating the ball, initiating the offense, or playing off the ball, like you said, with different lineups that we would throw out there. And I think that's kind of just a boost to my confidence every year, just whatever situation I need to be in, I think I'll be ready for and kind of gel well with, all the teammates that I've been playing with.
How do you respond to the criticism that you guys are a jump shooting only team that just wins from the outside?
That's fine. That's our strength. I mean, we obviously have high confidence and skill set of, guys being able to shoot the basketball, run high-paced offense. And even in the playoffs, we feel like we can be successful at it. Obviously, you can't just jack up terrible shots every possession, but we are able to create, good open looks with the way that we run our offense, whether it's attacking off the dribble, and kicking out to open shooters on the wings, or allowing, our motion offense and the player movement that we get to open up, easy, wide open looks, and whether they're, coming from downtown or mid-range or what have you, we feel like we'll be able to knock down a good amount of those throughout the course of the playoff run, and we'll be fine. We're not going to overreact to what people are saying outside of our locker room of being a finesse team or just a strictly jump shot shooting team, because that's what we do well.
77 shots in a row at practice one day. Is that the most unconscious you've ever been?
For sure. It gets to about 30, and you kind of realize you haven't missed in a while. I wasn't actually keeping track during. I had two of my assistant coaches out here who were rebounding for me, and they were keeping track. And I just knew I hadn't missed in a while, so when I did finally miss that 78th shot or whatever, I was about as mad as I've ever been, because I was just feeling so good and wanted to finish out the workout without missing.
I wonder what the Guinness Book of World Records is. That's got to be there, right?
So 77 threes in a row from NBA, 94 out of 100, right, in practice?
Yeah, I do that drill every day, pretty much shooting 100 threes around the arc. That was definitely the best I've ever shot, and it's obviously the most I've made in a row. But I don't know. I need to, with the Guinness Book, they come out with the guy in the suit with the clipboard and make it official. I missed that opportunity.
You should just show up to every practice. Do you during the course of a game, I don't want to say bored, because you're just not going to say you ever get bored during an NBA game because you don't want to be disrespectful to the opponent, but I watch all of your games. I would pay extra for the league pass to watch you guys. That's how much fun I've had. But I swear sometimes you try bad shots to see if it'll go in. Is that fair?
It might be a little bit of a stretch. I guess I just like to test myself every once in a while, I guess. But I don't know. You get a little kind of creative. You get a little more creative in certain situations, and I think Coach Curry would probably not want me doing that in the playoffs. So maybe I have to turn it down.
I know you don't want to say it, but I watch too much. There's no way. I know it. I know. You laugh, and I know you agree with me. I look at the Clay game against Memphis, where he's going off in the second quarter. You guys basically abandoned everything, and nobody would shoot except for him. And you know what? I love it. I love that you guys have that much fun. I'm just asking you to agree with me here, but, I mean, how much fun is this year with this group of guys?
Well, it's been awesome, man. Like you said, you have nights where Clay goes crazy. Obviously, he scored 37 in a quarter early in the season, and then did what he did against Memphis last week. So how fast that kind of situation comes on, 2 or 3 in a row, and then the next 3 is just some crazy, those looks that he might be getting, just testing himself and shooting from, 28 feet with a hand right in his face, and those 2 go down, and it's just kind of a crazy feeling to be on the court and watch performances like that. And yeah, we felt like an 8-year-old AAU team out there just dribbling around trying to find the hottest player on the floor at the time, and we almost got in trouble a couple of times. We throw some crazy passes just to get in the ball and turn it over, but in those moments you got to enjoy yourself and ride that wave, and Clay's definitely capable of doing that any given night.
Well, that's, against Memphis, at least you guys were up 20 when you were screwing around in the second quarter, so Kerr couldn't be that mad at you.
When you crossed up Chris Paul, it was one of the filthiest moves of the year in the NBA. Does he get a pass because he stepped on you?
Does he get a pass? Oh, no. He actually admitted that I got him, so I'm so tough to talk about, because he was, I guess he missed his step, right, when I first made the move, and his recovery step was the one that hit my foot. I'd already got him before he got to that point. I guess that made it look even better, but I'm just happy I made the shot, because there was so much commotion in that corner of the arena that I could kind kind of feel that moment happen.
Does anyone talk junk to you anymore?
Oh yeah, you get it all the time, especially from like the opposing bench. If you're in that corner where everybody take a shot or something to try and distract you, or
hold on a second, they're baiting you to take shots.
Or as soon as I look like I'm about to take a shot, they're all up in your ear, telling me to stand up and say something crazy to try to make me miss. On the court though, there's not much talking going on. We might have the best guy in Draymond, but there's not much going on the court. You just hear that kind of extracurricular stuff from the benches mostly now.
Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors getting ready for the playoffs. A few more thoughts here. Do you care if you win MVP this year?
I mean, a lot. It'd be a special accomplishment. Obviously, you know, a guy from the Southern Conference and he was in college to win an MVP award would be a very special, proud moment for everybody that's kind of helped me along the way. Teammates this year as well to kind of, you know, add action to this cake that we're trying to enjoy this year. It won't affect anything that happens in the playoffs for me. Obviously, the goal of winning a championship is the utmost importance, but you know, to think about what all goes into winning an MVP award, you want to experience that, and hopefully it happens.
How do you protect against getting overconfident when everybody's picking you to win this first-round matchup against the Pelicans and Anthony Davis?
We've seen the film, and obviously we played them about 2 weeks ago, and they beat us down in New Orleans. We understand that they're a really good team that has some individuals that are very, very talented, that can change, you know, a game, you know, in a second. So if we're not on our game and locked in and focused from game one, you know, they're definitely talented enough to beat us. So we have to take care of our business. We have to be playing our best basketball and be aggressive and locked in and focused. And it'd be a good test for us to start the playoffs because, you know, we've had a lot of blowout, you know, games this season, and obviously the last 2.5 weeks we've had to kind of protect ourselves from losing focus to end the season when we had a bunch of stuff, you know, already locked up and seeding and all that. So it would be a good test to see where we are, you know, mentally going into the playoffs against a talented team.
Steph, thanks for this year, and look forward to seeing more of you through the playoffs. Let's
I appreciate it, fellas.
20-something games out of you guys at least, all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, man.
SVP and Russillo.
Mayo's the best condiment.
In a weird way, and I don't want to sound like my dad here, but I feel like we've been listening to the same song all day on EDM Friday.
Oh, I don't. I think you've had different genres, different subsets, different BPMs. I definitely noticed a difference. Keep it up outside.
Danny knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, see that?
Yeah, my ear's just not as refined. Not as refined as I thought it was. Danny Kanell with us, SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio. We'll set aside a few moments for Outsider as we wrap this whole thing up. Marcus, the intern, showed up today, which is kind of weird because he hasn't really been showing up much the last few weeks ever since the one-on-one basketball thing. So it could be a little tense in there. Speaking of, we went through this Paul Pierce article, Jackie McMullen, ESPN.com. I urge you to go read it. And he said about Darren Williams, thought he was an MVP candidate. Once I got there, not necessarily the case. Joe Johnson's quiet. Also said Otto Porter should play angry. These Wizards, they don't know how great they can be if they want to be great, on and on and on. And he said about Toronto specifically, we haven't done well against Toronto this year, 0-3 against them. But I don't feel like they have the it that makes you worried. There isn't a team I look at in the Eastern Conference that makes me say they are intimidating. We don't have a chance. And the GM for the Raptors said, I don't want to get fined and responding to it. I mean, last year he basically said, bleep Brooklyn at a rally. And then Casey, the head coach, like, I'm not going to get into it. So I don't.
Was it the Toronto GM or the Toronto mayor?
Well done.
I like that, huh?
It's possibly.
Must be something with the people up in Toronto.
Just feisty folks. That's a great home crowd, though. It is.
Yeah.
But the rule always seems to be, these guys never say anything. We've had a couple interviews today where you go, okay, come on. Just, can you answer a question? Okay. But then when they do answer honestly and then they get ripped for it, I don't think it's that black and white. I think there are people that say things that are honest that are ridiculous. When Brandon Spike says the legal system, shaking my head after the Aaron Hernandez verdict, okay, that is your opinion, but we are going to blast it. Not because you're being honest, but because your opinion just is so off on this deal. So in this case with Pierce, I think he has the credibility. I think he has the resume, and the take isn't that bad because he's telling the truth. Toronto, why would anybody be scared of the Raptors?
What's he supposed to say? Yeah, it's going to be tough. I don't know if we can win. I'm seriously, like, is he supposed to just I do not get any problem with this article or his comments. Like, his comments were exceptional. I loved it. I love that he called out Bradley Beal and John Wall. Said, I don't know how bad they want it. Called out Rondo. Called out the younger generation of players.
Is it calling people out? See, I think that's where we lose this, where we start framing it a certain way. He is honestly telling you stuff that's as close to the truth as any of this stuff. Like the stuff on Darren Williams. Hey, I got here. Not quite. Well, no kidding. Like, he hasn't been the same guy in 3 years.
The stuff on the Nets is everybody already knew that, especially when we talked to guys, our NBA guys. You already knew it, that the situation was a disaster. Like, it's a bad situation. So he basically comes out and says that, which just confirms everything we've already known. The stuff about Rondo, same thing. How bad does he want it? He calls out Otto Porter, one of the young guys on his own team. Says, I just don't know how bad he wants it. He compliments him too. But I think there is motivation in Paul Pierce, and it's kind of trying to motivate these younger guys and try to get them to work harder. I think it's great.
I just would like I would like all of us to figure out a way to do this where it doesn't always become,
because
I
now
never say anything.
Right, because if he does get criticized for this, then the next guy that we criticize for not saying it has to be like, why should I say anything if you guys are going to crush me for saying anything?
None of this should be criticized.
No.
I don't think any of it is that far from the truth. You can have a difference of opinion on something, but the Ray Allen stuff about Ray not being the guy that's in it, the teammate, that's the
only
least surprising to me.
It's the least surprising, but it would be the most offensive to somebody who could look at these comments and say, man, he probably shouldn't have gone there, because it has nothing to do with basketball. It does attack his character. I guess that's the problem that you could have with it. But if it's true, if he's just telling it like it is and telling you what happened, basically calling him selfish, that Ray Allen was selfish by not, reciprocating, events in the off season and looking out for their charities and, golf tournaments or whatever it is.
Yeah, we show up to all your stuff. You never come to any of our stuff. And
right.
Pierce called him on it, and he goes, hey, you know what? That's just Ray. But the quote that I thought was great, because everybody freaked out when after the fact when Ray went to Miami, they go, have you talked to him? And he said, quote, it's not a bad thing. We had a great relationship on the court, but even the year we won it, after a game, we'd say, let's go have something to eat, have a night with the older guys. We'd get there, and it would be me, Kevin, and Sam Cassell, but no Ray. In a lot of ways, me, Sam, and Kevin were the big three. It just got to the point where it was, quote, that's Ray. No hard feelings. Everyone made a big deal of us not talking afterward, but there really wasn't much there. So he's basically saying, for all of you people that thought we just decided to cut Ray out of our circle because he left for the Heat, we weren't really that close to begin with.
So I could see it from a player's perspective that there is a code, like this unwritten rule of stuff. Like, if you criticize, you can call out a guy's game, but still, if he's telling the truth, you got to like it. Like, what about Jose Canseco when he comes out with his book and he's just shredding guys?
I had a hard time though backing Canseco because I thought he was an opportunist and
zero credibility.
He wanted to make money, and I'm not saying he was wrong about the steroid thing, but the idea, like, I've seen it framed sometimes where he's somehow this hero against the steroid users. I've interviewed him. I hated the interview with him. It was to promote his book, so I'm taking it far more personal because he wanted to come on and promote the book and wouldn't talk about any of it. And then I was like, hey, you've used steroids. He's like, well, there you go again, you and the media assuming everything. And I've told the story before, but I go, your book is titled like Juiced, Roids, Big Baseball, and How It Got Jacked, and you're telling me I'm a jerk in the media for assuming that you use steroids. Now,
if you're a teammate of Paul Pierce, are you walking on eggshells now? Saying,
no,
man, I better watch. I don't think it's the judge.
I would think that I would hope to be reasonable enough to go, okay, Darren Williams isn't as good anymore and doesn't want it. Boy, that's the exact guy I see on the court all the time. Hey, Otto Porter's really talented but hasn't put it together, and Bradley Beal and Wall, maybe they don't work every single day. Not a shock there. Ray Allen isn't the most reciprocating guy of all time. That only confirms stuff. So, there's nothing here I have a problem with, and that's why I wouldn't understand why anybody would be ripping Pierce now for being honest towards the end of his career.
SVP and Russillo. Major League Baseball on ESPN Radio. This season, the Mets have been a tale of two teams. One of the league's best at home and one of the worst on the road.
Towards the corner.
This weekend, they'll They'll be at home at Citi Field facing the Marlins. Will their home field domination continue, or will Giancarlo Stanton lead Miami to a road win? The Mets and Marlins. The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by the first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. SVP and Russillo.
Coach, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Thanks, Danny. How's everything going?
All right, we got Danny Kanell here with Ryen Russillo. So if you look at your run at Brooklyn to now what's happened in Milwaukee, what's been different for you as a head coach?
Well, I think just the process of learning what it takes to be a coach in this league. I'm still learning. I have a long ways to go. So just putting in the work, watching a lot of film, and just trying to put my guys in a position to be successful on the floor and just understand what it takes to be successful in this league.
Why did you know it was time for you to leave Brooklyn?
Well, the time to leave, I think, more or less it was just a change. And just like a player or a coach gets traded or whatever may happen, you still have a job to do. And right now it's about the Milwaukee Bucks and trying to figure out a way to win a game in Chicago.
How refreshing was it going from a team with a bunch of seasoned veterans to one of the youngest teams in the NBA? The average age is 24 for you.
Well, I think I was very lucky to have a veteran group that first time out as a coach, understanding the vocabulary, the terms of understanding what it takes. Those guys have been in the battles of big games. We came out of the gate slow, so they knew that they just had to continue to keep working, and that was going to change, and it changed for the better, and we found ourselves in the second round and lost to Miami.
You guys lost Jabari Parker earlier in the season. Michael Carter-Williams steps up. How big was his emergence for you guys?
I think, you look at any injury we've had all season, the next guy has stepped up. We've had guys, Dudley, you look at Ersan, you look at Z, you look at different guys stepping up on a nightly basis, losing Jabari, understanding that we're not built around one guy. You look at Giannis has grown each time he's taken the floor, and then in the trade we get Michael Carter-Williams, who's, playing at a very high level of late.
Jason Kidd, the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. When you look at Giannis Antetokounmpo, do you know what he's going to do when he decides to stop dribbling and go towards the hoop? Because it just, every time I'm at home, I go, I can't believe that worked again.
Well, Giannis, again, this is his second year in the league, and he's still learning the game. But he has, a lot of tools that can be successful in this league, and he's worked extremely hard on his game. And you can see each time he takes the floor, he gets confident, not just going to the basket, but playing and making plays for his teammates.
I love looking at some of his stuff on Twitter because we're talking about a kid, coming over from Greece, very young. I remember watching some of his international stuff, and he'd tweet out like, "Oh my God, Smoothie, America is the best," and it kind of reminds you that it's not just a young player trying to be a professional, but transitioning into a different culture. Do you have any stories about him and just him kind of reminding you how big this change has been for him as a player?
Well, I think I appreciate his work ethic, coming back after practice, watching film, working on his game. He's a sponge. He wants to be good. And he spends a lot of time in the gym, doing that. So it's nice to see a young guy working on his craft, and you can see his play on the court is a big result of that.
You guys aren't that far from Chicago. Their fans travel well. Will you guys have a home court advantage when you're playing at home?
Well, it doesn't matter. You look at, there's probably a lot of Chicago fans that have come throughout the season, here to Milwaukee. For us, we'll have our fans there, and hopefully we can give them something to cheer for loud and, kind of drown out the Chicago fans.
How big will a three-point shot be for you guys in this series?
Well, I think more or less it's big for both teams. You look at their side, they can get some guys going, and for us, we got to knock it down too. We got guys who can shoot it. So, you look at the three-point shot in this series, it's big for both teams.
If you had to play game one, how many minutes could you give us?
I can give you 12.
12?
That's about it.
Will you get some shots up in those 12, though?
Yeah, I'd definitely get some shots, especially with Giannis and Michael on the floor. I would be open in the corner. I was always open my whole career, so it doesn't matter now or when I was a rookie.
There you go. Coach, thanks a lot for your time, and good luck in the first round, all right?
All right, guys, thanks.
SVP and Russillo.
I want to thank Danny Kanell for 2 weeks, man. Awesome. Awesome job hanging out. Van Pelt will be back on Monday. He was down covering the Masters, then got a little vacation for he and the family. Maybe from Outsider Mike as we closed out EDM Friday. But get us started.
I just want to say thanks for letting me be here. Ton of fun. Had a really good time. And special shout-out to Outsider for the EDM Friday selection today. Solid all the way around.
It was like visiting like an old friend again when I got like my old, because I couldn't remember my password to get in my old computer to get all my music. Once I figured it out.
It's on.
Oh, my gosh.
It was on.
How much fun do you have today, buddy?
I had a blast.
He was way more dialed in than usual. Kind of zones out sometimes. Not today.
I felt like I was like behind the platters again. Like at the club.
We got to get you. We
You
got to
didn't
get
even
you.
take that many cig breaks today.
I was like really dialed. I was working.
How many cigarettes do you average a show?
Well, I don't ever finish one because I only go out for like a couple drags.
Do you leave it out there and then reheat it?
No, I waste it. I do sometimes if I'm like if I'm running low.
Yeah,
maybe
bro.
I'll just put it out and dial it back up later. But no, I probably go through like 3 a show. We'll say.
3 a show? How many Levitard? 10 a show?
Yeah, we that's where we make up the difference in Levitard.
If you could smoke butts during the show, how fired up would you be?
I'd probably be a lot better worker.
Have you tried the vapor ones?
Yeah, those things though.
Just don't do it for you?
They don't. They kind of, believe it or not, they hurt your throat a little bit. Regular cigarettes, no. But these vapor water
Regular
ones.
cigarettes are so much better.
Yeah.
We should try to do, like, our next show stunt. You played Marcus 101. The next one should be Let Mike Smoke.
Yeah.
Let Mike Smoke. We'll make sure it's. You guys just be behind the glass inhaling secondhand smoke. Can you imagine how it used to be back in the day? Like cigarette rights back in the day. I still think it's funny. Like, I'm old enough to remember ashtrays on an airplane, and you'll still see them sometimes when you're on a plane. Imagine being on a plane and just firing away darts the whole flight to L.A.
It'd be better than not.
You see,
At least
but
you're
you go
doing
by,
it.
you go
And
by,
everything else is just right in your face.
well,
Right, yeah, I would just start smoking.
How about the rooms they have, the smoking rooms in the airports now?
Oh, those are the worst. There's only one that I even know of that still exists down in Atlanta.
Yeah. There it is. All you can see is smokestack. It's great.
Look, I've got buddies that smoke, but they're more. I don't know that I know anyone that smokes regularly every day anymore, but I have buddies that as soon as there's a few cocktails and they're away from the wife, they're so fired up to smoke cigarettes. And when I walk by the smokers lounge at an airport, I feel like I'm looking into a window of just hell because everybody looks so miserable in there. They're Jones, and there's just this wafting smoke, and everybody looks pale and everything. It's weird. So
it is bad. And that's when you fly. That's when you want to smoke the worst because it's stressful. But
just
those
sit
rooms
back.
are tough.
Sit back. Let the plane do the work. Does your girl? How does she feel about EDM Friday? Does she like you starting to think about getting back behind the?
No, I think she's over
Behind
EDM
the platters.
Friday.
Behind the platters.
The platters?
Yeah.
She's over. Why is she over it? She knows that's part of you. That's just missing part of your DNA.
Yeah, but I don't think she understands it. She wasn't around for that part of me, so she doesn't. That's in the past, though.
Doesn't know what she's missing.
Yeah, maybe I'll take her to Pasha or something someday. Show her what's up down in Miami.
Deal.
So I got a question, but it's more of a request than a question because I'm going to go back to being a listener now, right?
Yeah.
And you know your Belichick impression, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give me 5 seconds.
You guys are, Jacksonville. A lot of fun.
Now, are you aware?
Rib sandwich.
Are you aware that sometimes when you're on the show, you talk really low?
Yeah, I know. I don't.
Because I'll be like, I usually listen to the podcast when I'm working out. And so I have to have it pretty loud, and then you'll be talking about something that's really low, and so I have to turn it way up, and then that bell comes back on. It's like, whoa. So can you just talk a little more consistently?
You mean the levels? The pitch?
Yeah, just keep it consistent. But I have heard that if you talk lower, it makes people really lean in, pay attention.
I'm not trying to do anything tricky. I just know that
also you could check the board op, too, who's controlling the mics.
Oh, Sam Steve with the save.
Some people kind of dance around the mics. You know, Ryan's a little bit more of a dancer than Van Pelt is.
Oh,
that's what it is.
Mike back with the elbow over the top. I don't have time for any questions. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Outsider for the EDM Friday. I'm gonna start being nicer to him because I notice he is pushing back a little bit.
SVP and Russillo.
Russillo! Got 100 acres I live on, you ain't even know it. Got 100 rounds in this AR, you ain't even know it. Got a bag of I play with on Cloud 9 in my spaceship. Zoned out, but he stay fresh from Zone 1 through Zone 6. Bricks in all my blood, birds in all my dreams, boats in my yard, lemon pepper my wings.
Miguel Cabrera leads the Detroit Tigers into Anaheim to face Mike Trout and the Los Angeles Angels. The pregame's at 7 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN2 and on ESPN Radio.